conference is going to be adjusted. Next week, we'll be having virtual sessions. So if you have questions, Okay, starting tomorrow. I'm sorry, I thought today's Thursday. All right, so starting tomorrow, we'll not be converging here as usual. We'll be having virtual sessions. So we'll give you numbers of Facebook accounts that you can be sending your messages to should you have them, and then we'll respond to them. So there's a little bit of confusion. But you know what to do normally when there are press conferences before we come up to the podium, you should have placed your recorders on. So please, let's take note of that. We don't have much time today. We're going to be 1 hour or a little under 1 hour for this particular press conference. As we all know, yesterday His Excellency addressed the nation, and during that address, he mentioned that Sierra Leone has recorded one positive case. And as a result, there are a few measures that have been instituted by government, but we'll come to the measures any time from now. I just want to recognize the presence of the newly appointed government's COVID-19 response team. The leader of that team is retired Brigadier Kelly Hassan Conte, the interim national coordinator. He also happens to be the Minister of Defense. He's here with us this afternoon. And we have some few announcements of few updates that he will be making here any moment from now. So we also have the Minister of Health, Dr. Alpha Wuri, of course the Minister of Information, and a host of other ministers here present. So without wasting much time, ladies and gentlemen, we need to really get to work and of course get to why we're here. So as a result, I'd like to invite the Government of Sierra Leone COVID-19 Response Team Lead, Interim National Coordinator, retired Brigadier Kelly Hassan Conte. Please come up and make this announcement.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Right, welcome to this first COVID-19 response team brief. Yesterday, as I said already, the President launched the team officially. And I think I announced in that press brief that we are on the formative stage to activate the structures to respond to the fight against coronavirus. That is ongoing, and that are now in place. Some of them were mentioned yesterday, but more importantly, perhaps, is I'll be calling on the Minister of Health to give you an update on our cases so far. So perhaps we would like to start with that, but I think I'll come up straight away with some of the measures, and perhaps you have questions later on we can roll out. Or we can get into, I think the updates will be fine for us to have it quickly. I'm sure most of us are here for that particular piece of the briefing. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Good afternoon all.
Good afternoon.
As you are aware, government have considered a state of public health emergency. The reason being that the footprints of the coronavirus in countries close to Sierra Leone was coming up. The major change that occurs is that when the first case is registered, then it becomes one for which adherence to rules must be principle. Therefore, in Sierra Leone, we are converting this to be a military activity. So I would reintroduce the interim coordinator, who is brigadier retired, Kelly Conte. The mode we are taking it now is that compliance has to be key. In Sierra Leone, after 10 weeks, we have put on observation 14 days, medical observation, 766 people. Of that number, 483 have completed the 14 days, they have been observed, and they are now considered to be distinctly free of the virus. I say this because those who have left the quarantine leave with a certificate, and they should be accepted in normal society as people that are absolutely, not absolutely, there's never an absolution in science, but considered as not have any effect in society. However, today we want to register that the essence of the quarantine is working, because it is said that if you are exposed to the disease, then the disease could manifest itself within that period. So on testing, we will be in a better position to you to confirm if the person has the disease or not. And yesterday, 31st, His Excellency the President highlighted that we now had, as at yesterday, 1 confirmed case. As at today, in a stream completely different from those on Compañero. Let me first of all stick to the 1 case that we had as at yesterday. 130 people are considered as having linked up to that 1 case. Of that 130, 43 of those are considered as primary, and those are now being traced, contact tracing. The first 8 of those have been tested as well, and they are free of the ailment. The results are negative. But this process would be ongoing as we link with them, test them, and clarify what their position is. But we now have a second case, not linked to the first case, but an independent case. The whole issue about line listing for that case would also start now. May I say that the laxity that could have been observed in quarantine centers have to be curtailed immediately. May I say the linkage between the quarantine personnel working and those in that use of PPEs have to be put in place immediately. That is why the interim national coordinator would now list out all the various regulations. Just note that if in country we think community transmission have started, then the rules and regulations are going to be firmer and tougher. As at now, we think we can trace, we think we can treat. But I want you to feel gratified that for 100 cases that could be positive for corona, 80 of those have been chosen, have been seen scientifically as that would be mild disease. Repeat, for every 100 that could be positive, 80 could be viewed as mild. 15 could be what you call severe, that you might require hospitalization. 5 could be deemed as critical, for which if you are not on ventilators, your chances of survival is slim. So we should not smear, blacklist anybody positive as if you are going to die tomorrow. No. As if they're going to infect you the next day. No. 80 of those would be mild, of every 100, 80%. Around 15% would be what is severe, and the next 5% would be what is critical. However, self-quarantine, mild, severe, or critical, you have to isolate yourself from all others. Even though your manifestation can be mild, but if you infect somebody else, his could be critical. Because our level of immunization is different from one person to the other. It is said people of age above 60 tend to have more severe or critical. You see why I am very worried indeed. And I want to ensure we are able to contain this, because people above 60 tend to get more of the severe or critical. That does not mean younger people do not get severe or critical issues. It just depends upon your immunization state. And you do not know your level of immunization because you have been exposed to malaria, you have been exposed to typhoid, or hepatitis, or diabetes, or some people HIV. Since you are uncertain of your level of immunization, that is why you have to protect yourself as much as possible, and washing, staying away from anybody, social distancing, not shaking hands. Try to stay home as much as you could, as the more you meet people, the higher the chances of transmission. May I end by saying that Sierra Leone have now registered in second place, and we would ensure that when there is community transmission, the rules will change significantly. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Minister of Health. I'll now invite, before coordinator comes up, let me also just quickly add that in the spirit of social distancing, we have a hall half full of journalists, because we want to continue to be seen doing what we preach. So we want to encourage all of you, to be very conscious about the social distancing that we've been talking about, and maintain and observe it. So with those words, I want to invite National Coordinator, Brigadier Hassan Kelly Ponte.
Thank you very much. So let me go straight to some of the measures that have been put in place. Some of them were mentioned yesterday. Like the minister said, compliance is critical in all of this. We can come up with 100 or 200 lists, measures put in place and announced. Until our compatriots all comply with those measures, it will be a Herculean task. And we need not repeat here that we are building up our structures to ensure that these measures are enforced. Now, first and foremost, the one key one I raised yesterday was people just decide, stay home if you do not have anything to do outside of your home. Leaving your home should be linked up with only essential movements. If you do not have any essential movements, I think that's the one primary thing we should all have in mind. Nobody needs to, ask you to stay home and not risk yourself contracting this disease. From what the Minister of Health has announced, if we have already an index case and we're having primary and secondary contacts to those cases, I think we should begin to think a bit beyond those people and the possibility that could arise, out of that. that group of people that have contacted themselves. As we speak, the surveillance team is still monitoring those people. They are still on the exercise of expanding of those contact people. And so that should give us an idea that it is safer staying home now than actually going out, especially in crowded places. So the first measure that we need to pay attention to is avoiding any crowded ceremony, function, or whatever it is. I think it's safer to be alone if you like. If you go out, be alone. Of course, that's not possible. But if you have to interact with people, please minimize it as much as possible. Now, some of us take this thing lightly. The scientists are still looking at how this thing is transmitted. And one of the issues is that don't get close to people because it's the vapor. Some say it's the vapor that transmits it. Some say it's also airborne. We're not sure of the exact ones. But that tells you stay away from people, because when they talk, they sneeze, it is that vapor that we are talking about that is responsible for transmitting this thing. So staying away from crowds is a primary one. Now, the international borders were closed, and government gave a small window to allow most of our people who are trapped on the other side to have way to come in. So a small window of 72 hours was given, which ends on Thursday. Thursday by midnight, that will close. Meaning anybody that comes in after that or that attempts to come in after that will be breaking the laws. And you'll no longer be quarantined, but you'll be in custody. And you'll be in custody for other reasons. It's not just now your coronavirus status, but you'll be breaking the law. So that's a key thing we must know. For now, movements are still being allowed. And each one that comes in, we've already trapped a couple of Sierra Leoneans that have come in, some by boat and some through land. They've been quarantined for now. But after Thursday, they'll be in custody. So we continue to keep the schools and education institutions closed. You know, those ones were closed as of yesterday. They'll continue to remain closed until further notice. On transportation, we are talking about taxis limiting the number of passengers they have to the barest minimum. At the front, we are not expecting any 2 or 3 passengers sitting with the driver. It's only about 1. And at the back, we can entertain only 2. You could see that most of these measures are being thought through or based on the first principle: avoid contacting people, avoid crowds. So that's why it's kicking in like that. Keke, for instance, is limited to 2 passengers. And we want to really monitor these and enforce them. On Podas, we are saying there should be no middle road seats, no standing in minibuses. That will also be monitored. Big buses should not entertain middle rows, and they should not allow passengers standing. Now, all drivers of these transport vehicles or bikes or whatever are required to carry hand sanitizers. Again, this is simply to help. One, the rider should not consider himself free by carrying somebody who is at the back. We should consider this person coming on the bike would also hold parts of his bike, would also sneeze or whatever. So we want you to protect yourself by having this hand sanitizer. Don't fail to put it on the hands of your passengers to clean their hands, for keke and for motorbikes, and for even the buses themselves. The buses, ferries and boats, we are requesting for them to carry minimal number of passengers. Of course, for the ferries, the negotiations going on. We want to minimize the number of people that are on board those ferries to the barest, including the vehicles also they can carry. And within those ferries, we are expecting our people to maintain that social distancing throughout. Traditional practices have also been looked into. And the Minister of Local Government has started that already. But all those practices now, we are encouraging to be hygiene sensitive, and some of them, especially the secret societies, remain banned until further notice. In other words, the poros, the weekdays, whatever it is, are all banned for now until further notice. On religious practices, same measures that have been announced will remain in force. In other words, no religious houses must be operational, meaning churches, mosques are not allowed to open to their worshippers as of now, going forward until further notice. Now, funeral processions have been restricted to only family members, a little over family members. In other words, we are not expecting large crowds anymore as we used to have. They are reduced to just family members. Total, not more than about 20. And these also will be strictly monitored. Traditional engagements like weddings, naming ceremonies will be limited to only those that need to be there and not beyond immediate family members. Washing of dead bodies, we will be relying on the scientific information later, but now that we don't understand what it is, whether they can transfer, we want to discourage that across the country. And we'll ask our DMOs in all over the country to go by strictly on health rules. In other words, requests will be made through the health system for advice to be given on those occasions. In other words, we are not accepting our people anymore to wash dead bodies as we used to do. Sometimes in our villages we even keep them and even romance with them if you like. We would like to encourage our people not to continue to do so until the scientists clear that for us clearly, whether they still can transmit when the corpse is there. We are not sure what to do in that area. So that one we're just putting up there as part of our cautionary measures to our citizens. On trade, all supermarkets and shops must continue to adhere to stringent hygiene measures, such as hand washing and application of sanitizers, and observe social distancing. We are not expecting people to crowd in any of these supermarkets, and the onus to control that is in the hands of the owners of those shops and supermarkets. Local markets, we are requesting that all traders in those markets must provide hand sanitizers, especially at the entrance. All these markets have associations. They have the associations. We are expecting those markets to have, hand washing facilities and also sanitizers before people go to the markets. Now that may sound a Herculean task, but it's a task that deserves more we need to invest in that task, because it's far better to take care of that investment than have a breakout that will attract larger kind of investments. So we are encouraging all markets to make sure they have hand sanitizers at their entrances and also the washing of hands. The periodic market days, which are referred to as lumas or doorways, up country and elsewhere, those ones are banned completely until further notice. Because whether you like it or not, those lumas and doorways really attract very, very large crowds. On entertainment, for now, because government is concerned about the economic impact it may have on some of these areas, they are not banned as yet, but they must operate only between the hours of 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. And during those timings, they must apply social distancing and hand washing measures as stringently as possible. And again, here the onus rests on the owners of those bars and clubs. Restaurants are required to operate, again, between 7 a.m. and 9 p.m. Restaurants must close by 9 p.m. And same thing applies social distancing and hand washing measures to be stringently applied. All beaches are closed for mass entertainment events. We don't expect crowds at the beaches, including mass jogging. It doesn't stop people going for jogging at the beach. But what we've been used to seeing large crowds of men and women jogging as a group are not allowed. All mass sporting activities also remain banned until further notice. Mass congregation at sports video centers are also banned until further notice. Now, whilst the surveillancing continues and we're trying to locate those primary and secondary contacts and tests are being made, we seem to have some challenges with all these movements going around to do the tracking, tracing, and registering of these primary and secondary contacts. As a result of that, government is announcing a short lockdown, not immediately. Government has considered giving some space for people to prepare themselves, but a 72-hour lockdown, which will commence on Sunday, this Sunday coming, and it will finish by 23:59 hours on Tuesday night. In other words, Wednesday, that is when the lockdown will finish. Now, the reasons are clear. You know the trend across the world, when there is an index case, and you need to do contact tracing and things like that, you find out that if you don't clamp down at that material point, you risk having a very high spike immediately. We do not want to take those chances. We want to clamp down immediately to say the entire country will be on lockdown. You know, there's no movement outside your own house or premise, meaning, of course, your compound can be there, but we are not expecting people to be crisscrossing. No transportation from any parts of the country except on essential duties. Essential duties here, narrowing it down. So, of course, the security services that will be doing part of the enforcement role. Of course, the medical people who are at the front of all of this will be given clearance for this. And a small number of accredited fourth estate members, which the Ministry of Information will coordinate on our behalf, so that the issues are covered, but it has to be in small numbers. Now, we want to break the chain of transmission. That's a second reason. Until we break that chain of transmission, we risk having it going beyond our control. Now, we want to also have this lockdown so that we can actually target these people that have already been identified as primary or secondary contacts to be given the appropriate kind of treatment they need and to be, at least advised on the way forward as from that point. Now, I need to emphasize that the hospitals may not be the right place to take every Tom, Dick, or Harry that seems to have some symptoms. In fact, we'll be expanding the thing further. It's best isolating this individual where he or she is, and then making sure he or she has the right kind of medical advice and support they need. It's always better that way. So that we leave the hospitals for those critical patients that will actually require close monitoring of health experts. So that's the mode we'll be operating on. And that is very critical for us to maintain. As has been said already, I don't know whether it was mentioned that 3 of those primary contacts, and this is the reason why we went beyond the Western area. We could have just limited it here. But 3 of those primary contacts left Freetown on the day they were released. On the 29th and the 30th, they were on transport going to 2 of them are in Kenema and 1 in Makonde. Now these 3 people have been traced and samples have already been taken for testing because we need to test all of them, and the family members with whom they spent the last 24 hours, we need to check that properly to ensure that the entire household are properly checked. And as we've been briefed over time by the scientists themselves, we will need to give another 5 days to treat the household again to be pretty sure that nobody has the virus. So those things are going up country. So as a result of that, being up country, we've expanded this to cover the country. Because we know we are all Chamanians. Sometimes you may leave here to go to Kenema, but you first go to your uncle in Makeni and then come back, go through boat to 1 or 2 clubs before you even end up in the Kenema you left for. So we are saying, well, we don't know where these people pass through, but so let's embrace the entire country to be on this lockdown. So that's why the other districts are sharing this lockdown with us in the Western area. So it's total across the country lockdown for those 3 days, from Sunday till Tuesday, 23:59 hours, meaning 1 minute into Wednesday morning before this lockdown is over. The measures will not be comprehensive at any one stage. As was announced by His Excellency the President, this is a dynamic situation, and we'll be rolling out these drafts of measures as we see fit. The aim being to protect the citizenry. That's the focus, to protect all of us. And the other issue based on that protection is also we've been considering the use of face masks. Now, there is some literature on the use of face masks that it does help. If it could be transmitted through vapor, then perhaps if I have it here on myself, I'll not be spilling out any of those vapors to anybody else. So at least if I have it, I'll not be sending it to somebody else. So if we all go by that theory and everybody has it, so nobody will send it to anybody. So because of that, but also mindful that we are in short supply of these face masks, and that even if we get our own locals to present, to make them now, they will not be able to do so to cover all of us immediately. So therefore, the face mask also, it has been considered to kick it in by Monday, and by phases also. Phase 1, every government official in every government ministry, every public house, this includes all health services, meaning hospitals, clinics, whatever. As long as you are receiving patients, everyone having to do any business in those public houses must have facial masks as from Monday. So as from Monday, this building, for instance, if we come in here, we will all look like some kind of musketeers. Yeah, have a mask on, so nobody transmits anything. That's the theory behind it. And we are hoping that it will work. And then for the rest of the public, we want to actually encourage everybody to try and do so. As we have seen in many of these social media posts, this is something you can make. Yes, some of us can make the weak ones, some of us can make the strong ones, but whatever it is, it's an attempt to stop whatever sneezing, whatever coughing, whatever spittle of coming from your mouth, let it remain to yourself. That's the idea. So you don't actually have to go and buy the $7 one, but you can find some. In fact, today some of us, as laymen, we are saying things, the doctors are laughing. We say, what about Kasanke? But for some of us, it works. If it costs down 50%, believe me, you have made an effort. So what we are saying here, find some kind of face mask and put it on. As from Monday, it will be mandatory for all government officials. So in other words, and we will be policing that too. We hope our colleagues in the public service will do that quickly. And the thing is, we are not going to encourage our public officials to dip into the resources of our medical teams, because we will not encourage them to harass the Minister of Health, because that is meant for our frontline fighters. In other words, the health officials themselves. We will keep those ones for those people. For us, we can use other means. You know, I think some homes have already started implementing that. I joke with my niece. My niece, a couple of days ago, she started with 141. We teased her a lot, but she has ended up making quite a lot for all of us. And so we've passed on a martial law in our place. You must have face masks. We joke, but we're finding a way for it to work. We're trying to implement it and comply with that. I think we can think of ways to have this in our homes. So we are encouraging the public, the general public, to follow suit, and please have these facial masks on. It will be helping us to carry out our functions. The thing is now out there. We don't know specifically where it is. We are following on this primary and secondary contacts, and it is our hope that we'll clamp that number down. And when once you clamp that number down, the rest is monitor them over a period, and then our problems are over. It's easier said than done. We are praying for us to be able to do that. And that's why we want this space to allow attractors to have the freedom, to have the flexibility to move wherever they want to move and get these people in place. And we are taking this opportunity to announce to our compatriots who may have come in at with that particular flight to please use this opportunity to call in. The Minister of Information will be given a specific number to call in so that we can continue to monitor their status as of now. All of this fight is a fight for all of us. Those who have been exposed, those who have not been exposed, we all share this fight together. If you have been exposed, it is your duty as a citizen to support us in the process of fighting the disease. So please send in your calls, making your calls, so that the Minister of Information will use that number, that information, for the health people to give the kind of advice they need to give you and be able to follow up on you. And you may not know, you may not have the symptoms now, but it may come up a few days later. So if you are one of those that are part of that quarantine, please come up and just call that number so that you can have some of these information. You can have booklets in place to share that with you and see how you are faring on. I think I'll stop so far here, and perhaps, I don't know, Minister of Information, Minister of Dr. Willie, you have something to say? Maybe you can say a few words, please. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, retired Brigadier Kelly Conte. I'd also like to use this opportunity to heartily congratulate you and to welcome you to these very challenging times that you now lead. So part of the things we need to talk about, His Excellency is extremely and very deeply concerned about the unethical publication of the names of, confirmed cases or patients in the current context. He's extremely very concerned that, by so doing, it undermines the confidentiality, torpedoes the doctor-patient relationship, and in the end, it might contribute to people shying away from, testing and other related services that government offers. So we want, as government, to profoundly apologize to patients or suspects whose confidentiality has been breached. That is not in the nature of the business. Government does not want it, we frown at it, and the Ministry of Health and Sanitation has assured us that necessary steps are being taken to ensure that those who did those breaches are brought to book and particular disciplinary actions instituted against them. I think that's very important. We are a government that truly cares. We are all in this together. I mean, I just read, I mean, if a patient volunteers their own information, that's for them. They are consenting adults, but it's not for anybody. Because you are privileged, you belong to be the first to click generation to put out patient information out there. That is deplorable. We condemn it and apologize for it. On another matter, the coordinator just mentioned we are having a dedicated phone line. We'll announce that at tomorrow's virtual press briefing. It will really not be manned by the Ministry of Information. We will just support the Ministry of Health and Sanitation to ensure that they have that dedicated line. Already beyond following up on how they are doing, there are also psychosocial support that they may need. We want to make this available to them, right? So it's very, very important that if you know somebody who was here and who cannot now reach us, I mean, please advise them to call in once the dedicated number is announced tomorrow. And as everybody else has mentioned, let us all do our very best to stay safe. All being well, next time you come here, you'll see all of us in face masks. Right. So I like, on behalf of my colleagues, to announce that well, the Ministry of Information, you have had it. So Monday, we are giving out we're reading the marching orders out there. For Monday, nobody is coming to work here without a face mask. My friend and brother Kalilu, if you want to visit me, you don't have a face mask, better stay home. We will not be seeing you. Right? So thank you so very much. Mamadi will wrap the press conference. This was meant to be very short, and we want to be fidel to that commitment. Thank you.
So, ladies and gentlemen, we will entertain a few questions. Yes,
My name is Leone, and I work for Universal Radio. And my first question is to the Minister of Health. According to experts, the use of ventilator is very key in the fight. Can you please tell us as a nation how many ventilator machines we do have in the country? Are they working? Where can we access these machines? I would like to know, because the gentleman and the first case that was announced by His Excellency the President yesterday, according to the information we had, was that this gentleman was put under quarantine on the 16th of March, and on the 29th of March, he was asked to go home with a certificate issued to him, which shows that he had no symptoms of the virus. My question is it possible for someone to undergo the 14 days incubation period without showing any sign of the symptoms? Because this is critical research. I mean, people are being confused about it.
all right, thank you very much.
Lastly,
You want to ask for all your other colleagues?
Yes.
it's just a short question.
No. We'll come back to you to have time. Yes, question.
Precious for South Africa Online Television. This is for the newly appointed man in charge of the COVID-19 response team. We heard from you that there is a total difference from the first case and the second case, but we didn't get in detail, I mean, how this person contacted, whether through our borders, whether it through the airport was on quarantine. Maybe you said it for just clarification. Okay. But anyway, I understand. The second case, yes. How long?
Thank you very much. Yes,
My
name is Andy. I'm the head of both, but I'm also Mr. Minister, do we have enough testing kits? And for the coordinator that you made mention of those who breach the law actually take it to hospital. But I think so they are coming from this other country where we have a lot of cases. Are you just taking it without them going through the normal rituals for
Thank you. Yes.
Oh, okay. Moi Bassimi Sansi from Containment. My question is to Kelly as a content. Relating to the Liver line and the border crossing here, we still have a challenge with them. And there are alleged stories of people coming and being picked from officials here. And they are being paid cash to come from Guinea and Liberia. So we want to see how best to strengthen them. Even had maybe their stipend, even more support in terms of their ration or more cash so they will not have borders in Liver line here and proactive.
Okay, thank you very much. So, let us allow the media to be able to respond to
Thank you very much for showing such concern. Let me say, before the advent of the disease, we had 3 ventilators in the ICUs of Sierra Leone. The government has procured another 8 as of now. But the intention is to buy up to 50 ventilators. May I say, currently, we find it extremely difficult for countries to allow you to take the ventilators out of the Western countries as I plan. I've just been informed that we should be getting another 11 from Africa Union there in country. So 8 procured by the government, 11 from African Union, 3 Church-Shams Hospital, 3 Church-Shams Hospital. So I have already, we are talking about only critical cases that we need that. So for every 11, say around 5 or 6 may be the ones that require that. The second issue about was quarantine. Quarantine on the 20th, the quarantine time of 40 days is what is assumed that you would have shown the ailment before the period. In this month, we picked him up the day after. But he started showing, now that he has been interviewed, he started showing the ailment much earlier. Much earlier, was suppressed it with drugs. That is the essence of us talking about the quarantine man efficiently. Because somebody must have been going out, somebody must have been buying drugs. What you have to see is that the process works and it's not well. We have to thank him for staying the 1 day beyond the quarantine home. He stayed. And we have to thank his family for sending transport for him to take him to the hospital. Rather than taking him home. Okay? So all of this is telling you how compliant Sierra Leone is and how we should be grateful and thankful. It is not for us now to smear them. It's not for us now to make us think there's something wrong there. You can be sick of anything. If you have diabetes, what is the news in this? So somebody is sick and he is on the mild side as well. His CT level is quite low. He will leave that place as strong as you and I. And there's no reason for us to smear the family. The second case is not linked. But we will not make the error of even start talking about male, female, they are not there because of how the first case was treated badly, so badly. So this is not just a medical case, and the government of Sierra Leone will do full-fledged contact tracing, and again the case is mild as of now. With regards to testing kits, we are expecting 3,500 testing kits from WAFU, West Africa Health Organization, of which 1,000 is already in country. Through the Alibaba Foundation that came through Addis Ababa, 20,800 kits are now in country. May I, however, say based on the methodology used, the PCR one, you're actually getting 4,000 people test from that 20,800 tests. You'll only be getting 4,000. Okay? So, if we're able to do 1,000 a month or 2,000 a month, we think what we have in country is reasonable for this country. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Right, I have two questions to answer here. Whether we'll be allowing people to cross over and then go straight to custody without, going through the protocols that have been established. Of course not. We will not allow people to come straight away to custody. Custody here will be a little bit different from the quarantine. They are both some form of lockup, but the one is will be responsible for you fully and will take care of you whilst you are there. But the other one, you will know that you have committed a crime. Obviously, we would not like you to bring the disease inside country, so we'll fit you again. We'll have to follow you, take all your statistics, and then make sure you do not have it. Yeah, especially if you are coming out from Guinea. Now we know Guinea is the people say it's still below 50, but we're not too sure because we don't have any credible figures yet, and we know that there has been a spread a little bit. So we'll be hesitating from people coming from that direction. Because Liberia has a similar kind of character in the coronavirus fight, and so we are not sure of the numbers. So anybody coming from those areas after that deadline will be put in custody, but obviously cleaned up, if you like. They will be kept there, and our custody, the duration will be determined later, but definitely not below 14 days. So that is clear on that. The other issue on our security at the riverine areas and encouraging us to give them more cash. I think the question here is not cash, it's just the attitude and the mindset of certain compatriots, whether in uniform or not. We have deployed some soldiers, I can tell you, in some areas where they do not have the tiniest of support, but they've been very, very vigilant because they know why they are there. Yes, I agree with you. Where they are weak, and those are the issues are picking up now. We started yesterday to pick up some of the flaws in the entire structure, starting from even the surveillance and the security areas. These are the weak areas for now, but we are beefing them up as we go. By a week's time, I'm sure all of these structures will be up and fully operational. And that's why we are changing personnel here and there to ensure that we have the full structure in place to ensure compliance. You can be assured of that.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we want to thank you very much for your time, and we'll get back to you when we commence Thursday press briefing at Ministry of Information. But for now, we will continue with this press briefing. Actually, it will be online. And you have our numbers. We'll send numbers to you to call and make inquiries. We send those numbers, we put them out on our Facebook page. Don't forget the Ministry of Information now has a Facebook page. Okay. All right, sorry, I'll come back and continue.
Yeah, no, sorry, you just reminded me on the lockdown time on Sunday. It will start first light on Sunday, which means 6 a.m. on Sunday, that's it. So you go in on Saturday, please stay in until 11:59 hours on Tuesday. So do your bogey if you want on the Saturday, but please give us, well, that also is not encouraged. Please come home early so that you have a good rest. Yeah, thank you very much.
All right, thank you very much. Thank you very much.
This was survive for you.